But welcome everyone to Advocacy Day 2025. My name is Lynanne. Woo! Okay, I'm liking this crowd already. So a couple of things we want to get started with. First, by way of introduction, it's nice to meet you. I'm Lynanne Gutierrez. I'm the president and CEO of Groundwork, and thank you. Thank you. We have an incredible day for you here today. You woke up, you came to Columbus, you showed up. We're part of this fight, we're part of this movement, and we have blanketed this building and this community to make sure that every legislator in the State House today knows that early childhood advocates are here. We want our priorities to be met. We are here to communicate the needs of families and children, and we will hold them accountable to these decisions through the state budget and after. So, today is about using your voice to advocate. If you hadn't seen it kind of in our pre-event loop, I want you all to, you won't be rude at all, get out your phone and point it right at the screen. And click on this advocacy alert. You'll use your camera. Take a picture of this QR code. This is the first time, if you haven't already, use your voice today, because you're going to send a letter to your senator and to your representative from the House of Representatives who are deliberating on budget decisions as we speak. So you'll meet with your members later this afternoon, of course, but this will send instantly a message to your House member to let them know you're here and that you support quality, affordable childcare, the child tax credit, investments in healthy moms and babies, and more. So thank you for your participation. I do want to acknowledge thank you to our staff, and we have a few parent volunteers, Rebecca Johnson and Guadalupe Bright. They're from our Family Action Network and have been part of our leadership work. So thanks to the team and the families that have helped keep this event moving here, and will support you throughout the day. Next, I would thank our sponsors, BI3 and the Ohio Head Start Association, for supporting this event today. So let's give a round of applause for our sponsors. Thank you to BI3 and the Head Start Association. So if this is your first time engaging with Groundwork, and by the registration list, our team has noted that for many of you, this could be the first time you've showed up in person and are meeting with members of our team. Welcome. As a reminder about who we are your early childhood state policy and advocacy organization. That means our team is based here in Columbus, and while we spend a lot of time out in the community with you, our job, again, is every day to make policymakers accountable to the priorities of your young children and kids in the state of Ohio. We focus on that birth through 5 space because we know with the science of early childhood development that if we can get it right in those first 5 years, then we can really transform both outcomes for kids, families, and our state. We work hard to advance systems and have been giving testimony as recent as yesterday in support of the budget priorities that you all are going to help us communicate. But I wanted to remind us, right before I go through the agenda for the day, is that our policy agenda setting process was created by all of you. We have been to your communities, we have spoken to families, professionals, and leaders in your communities that all came together and created an agenda, noting where the shared opportunities and where the shared barriers were. On your table, in your table number, there's a QR code right on your table sign. That will lead you now to the policy agenda for this state budget. So in recognition of the policy agenda we all created together, we've identified where the real opportunities for new investment are based certainly upon the governor's proposed budget that we're really excited about, and all of the things that you have shared with us. So please feel free to make yourself familiar with that and with the materials in your folder as we work throughout the day. You will also note that before I go through this broad agenda for the day, you have a personal agenda behind your name tag. So if you haven't checked that out, you should take a look at that. That told you what table number you're at. It tells you your meetings for this afternoon, who you're going to be meeting with in terms of the member's office, and also your other team members along with you. So I am going to walk us through the agenda for the day. Immediately following me, we're going to hear from Director Kara Wente, from the Department of Children and Youth. Then we're going to have a legislative panel discussion around the budget, and then provide or give some legislative awards to some outstanding children's champions here in the Ohio General Assembly. We're then going to hear from our keynote speaker, Jill Miller, and then our team will walk through our advocacy goals and make sure you're very prepared to transition from this room to then your meetings in this afternoon. At noon, we'll get up, we'll stretch, we'll get lunch, and we'll come back and sit here to have a watch party of the Governor DeWine's State of the State. And then we will kind of dismiss from here after the State of the State has concluded, and we'll all walk through this building to get and walk down to the Rife where the Ohio House offices are. Most of your meetings, you'll have your first meeting in the House of Representatives over across the street. So stay tuned, you're gonna get plenty of direction, but our team is here to help and support you. So now I'm gonna transition and introduce Director Kara Wente from the Department of Children and Youth. She's going to kick off what's going to be an engaging morning, and we're excited to hear from her. She spent her career advocating for children, like so many of you, and in August of 2023, Governor DeWine nominated her to be the director of the new Department of Children and Youth, and she's served in that position since. With more than 20 years in dedicated state service, Director Wente has extensive experience in serving the most vulnerable children and families in Ohio. She's committed to data. She's committed to listening to the voices of families and professionals and you all in this room. She's established bold and measurable goals for the department, something that we've seen for the first time that you all are sharing in those priorities that the department has as well. And she's leading the work to support really what has been the strongest proposal we have seen from Governor DeWine and really from any governor in the past decade with regard to the investments in young children and families in what is a very challenging time for our children and families in the state. So without further ado, I'll welcome her up to the stage to share remarks with us. Thank you so much.
Good morning. Well, y'all made it here successfully, and with traffic and parking, that's a first feat. So congratulations on that. But I was excited to come here this morning because when you look around this room, I see hundreds of voices, hundreds of advocates, and hundreds of champions who wake up every day to fight for Ohio's kids. That is power. But more importantly, that is hope. This is what change looks like. And today, we put the power of this room and your networks to work. First, I want to take a minute to thank Lynanne and the Groundwork team. Lynanne has been a fierce advocate for children and families, but you will not be surprised that she is also one of the best accountability partners that I didn't know I needed. She's not gonna call me and say she likes something if she doesn't, because she's going to listen to all of you. She and her team are your voice at the table when you can't be there, and I wanna take a moment just to recognize the hard work that they do every day. Two years ago, when I stood before you, it was one of the first speeches I gave to kick off the network of advocacy for the new department. And I reminded us all that you have to hear something 7 times to understand it and 14 times to take action. This isn't just a catchy phrase, it's the foundation of advocacy. Because as you all know better than anybody, real change does not happen overnight. It happens when we raise our voices over and over again until action happens. And then as all good advocates, the next thing we do is push for the next goal. And let's be honest, it's tough to be an advocate right now. The world's uncertain, the budget is back to a normal budget before the pandemic, which is why it's more important than ever that we stay united for Ohio's kids. We know who we are fighting for. We know our priorities, and we must, with a united voice, sing that from the loudest hymns we can. We are here to fight for Ohio's kids. It's why the department was created. It's why you all showed up this morning. They don't have a vote. They don't have lobbyists. But our kids do have Governor Mike DeWine. And they have all of us. Today, right now, we have the opportunity to ensure their voices are heard at the highest level of government. In just a few hours, Governor DeWine is going to stand over there in the House chamber to deliver his annual State of the State address. He will use his voice to do as he's done since he was a prosecuting attorney in Greene County, to champion Ohio's children and families. He will make the case for bold investments in their future, but he needs all of us walking behind him. He needs all of us to carry this message. When you all walk the halls of the State House today and go over to the Rife, let them hear you loud and clear. Invest in Ohio's children. Invest in Ohio's future. Over the past 18 months, the Department of Children and Youth has listened to more than 350 youth, caregivers, and families. We've also listened to more than 700 community stakeholders. Many of you in this room participated in those meetings. From those conversations, we established our 3 key priorities. Priorities that were consistent among every area and every individual we encountered. Priorities, though, that demand action. Let's start with infant mortality. For far too long, Ohio has ranked the worst in the bottom quartile, most recently 43rd in the nation in infant mortality. But we are beginning to see progress. Our preliminary data for 2024 shows the lowest rate in over 20 years. So what does that mean? What does it look like? For the past few years, we've lost more than 900 babies across this state. Today, an additional 80 babies are alive because of the work we all are doing. These are not just numbers. These are children, these are lives, these are dreams, and these are futures. This progress is possible because of targeted investments like the Maternal and Infant Wellness Program, which ensures that the most vulnerable families have the support they need when they need it. But we cannot afford to let up now. Let's move into early care and education. Ohio's families need childcare that is affordable, accessible, and high quality, so parents can stay in the workforce and children can get the strong start they deserve. That's why Governor DeWine has prioritized childcare investments, including the Child Care Choice Voucher Program, which has helped thousands of families stay in the workforce while ensuring their children have the best access to early care and education opportunities, launched just 1 year ago with his last State of the State. One mother recently shared, "This program is life-changing. It allows me to work and provide for my children." I think we all agree that that is not too much to ask, which is why we cannot afford to let up. Let's look at our third goal around children's services. Since 2019, Ohio has reduced the number of children in care from 16,400 to about 14,200. That is the lowest level we've seen since 2016. This isn't an accident. This is because we have set a foundation to support our families differently, to meet them earlier, to talk to them when they have a question, not a crisis. Because our goal isn't to support them better in care, it's to keep them out of it. And that's what we're starting to see happen. But again, we cannot afford to let up. And Governor DeWine knows this better than anyone. He also recognizes that families are seeing and feeling the squeeze of increased cost. We know rent is rising. We know childcare is expensive. We know the cost of diapers and formula is at a high. Families with young children are working harder than ever just to keep up. This is why Governor DeWine proposed a child tax credit for working families. Hardworking families deserve tax relief because when parents have just a little more financial security, they can stay in the workforce. They can afford the basics. They can keep their children housed, fed, and healthy. This isn't just about tax policy. It is about ensuring these families have the supports they need at the time they need them. But we know that all of this cannot be accomplished with passion alone. Passion is not enough. We need to be clear. We need to be specific. When we go to our meetings, when we talk to members, we need to tell them exactly what Ohio's children need. So, what is Governor DeWine asking for in his executive budget? We want to fully fund Family Connects Ohio to ensure all 88 counties have access so that every newborn and family has access to critical support that they need. This means they have the opportunity to leverage it if they need it. It is not a one-size-fits-all approach. We must secure investments for early care and education and maintain the support for the Child Care Choice Voucher Program. Helping more families afford quality early learning means we are investing not only in the workforce of today, but the workforce of tomorrow. We must also champion funding for regional child wellness campuses. These will provide critical services to our kids that can't stay with their biological families. It will keep them closer to home, though, so that these families can be a part of that treatment to make sure they return home faster. And we must push for Governor DeWine's child tax credit because hardworking families raising young children deserve the support. These are not just policies. These are lifelines for Ohio kids and families, and they need us to raise our voices now. These investments can make a difference, but they are not guaranteed. Right now, tough decisions are being made. The executive budget is written, but we must ensure people understand the value of these investments and make it easy for them to support them. So I ask you, what are you all going to do about it? I know today you are going to act and use your voice. Today, right now, as soon as you leave this room, speak up. Share our story. Share the stories on behalf of your kids and families. Talk to your networks, your legislators, your family and friends, because the more people that understand this, the more people that can fight for it. Because we cannot afford to let up. We are moving in the right direction, seeing tangible progress. The time is now. Governor DeWine is going to use his voice today, and he is asking us all to remember, behind every statistic is a child with a dream. Behind every policy decision is a family striving for stability. Behind every budget line item is Ohio's future. This is not just a policy debate. This is a fight for Ohio's kids and families for today and tomorrow. I ask you to make your voices heard and continue the strong advocacy you have done over the last many years, and cannot tell you how much we at the new department appreciate your partnership, your commitment, and your dedication. Rooms like this give us hope that we can make a tangible difference. Thank you.
Let's please give another round of applause for Director Wente joining us this morning. Thank you for your leadership. What Director Wente really highlighted this morning is those issues that are most important, why you showed up today. And certainly in your folders on the left-hand side is our policy agenda that we are all sharing in today. So make yourself familiar with that. You're already familiar with that, certainly through the training that you've completed in advance of this day, but let's focus there because our policymakers are going to have, and their staff are going to have really rich discussion with you today. They're going to ask you about your families. You're going to tell them about the work that you do and who you represent. And they're also going to push back. They're going to be questioned, where should the money come from? Why should this be a priority? And you're going to have to double down on why you're here and why you're prioritizing very young children and families. And that's your job, to build the priority behind young children and families' needs and make sure that they know that you are going to hold them accountable regardless of the decisions they make, and let them know that their budget, the budget that comes out of these chambers, is a statement of their priorities, and you're going to hold them accountable to the priorities focused on young children. We are lucky to hear from a handful of our legislators today, and I'm going to introduce our Vice President, Brittany Bolton, who otherwise is known as our Government Affairs Queen on our team, to come up here, introduce our legislative leaders, and lead us through a discussion so you can learn directly from many of our legislative leaders who are deeply engaged in the budget process on finance committees about their points of view and their commitment to young children and families. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much to everybody who's traveled up, down, left, right, all around Ohio. It's great to see so many friendly faces out in this room and to see this room so packed. I'm really excited to kick off our legislative panel here in the next few minutes. As our legislators are arriving, I have a couple announcements to share about meeting changes. We had a couple folks registered to meet with Representative Beth Lear. I think it was only 2 or 3 folks, so it shouldn't impact too many people. That meeting, instead of being at 1:30 p.m., is now at 3 p.m. So Beth Lear has been moved to 3 p.m., and that will be on the 12th floor of the Rife Center. We'll go over directions later this morning, so it's fresher. And then Senator Kent Smith is moved from 3 to 3:30 p.m. Senator Kent Smith is at 3:30 p.m. If you have any questions, my buddy Jacob over here will help you out. All right, I see some of our legislators arriving, so I'll go ahead and welcome them to the stage. We've got House Majority Floor Leader Marilyn John coming in. And I also see Senator Paula Hicks Hudson. Please join us on the stage. Okay, and I know Representative Sweeney popped in. She's at Finance Committee and will be back in about 5 minutes. You might have just left her there, Representative John. And Senator Blessing is also in a committee, so he'll be on his way as well. I see Senator DeMora in the back. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Our folks will be in your office later this afternoon. We appreciate your service. And I know I saw Senator Craig walking through as well. I don't know if he had to run back to his office. Have I missed any other legislators who might be out there this morning? It's a lot of faces to keep track of. Wonderful. Well, we can go ahead and start a little bit because I know you two have lots of places to be this budget season. So I'll go ahead and pass. Here's an extra mic too we've got for you. Yeah, of course. So I feel like it's always really boring to listen to me read your bio, so I thought it would be more interesting to kick off with just each of you sharing a little bit about your path to your leadership roles and what made you run so you could focus on the parts that you feel the most passionate about.
Well, thank you so much for having us. I apologize. I have a 10:30 with the speaker. He gets a little bit ouchy when you show up late. But it's great to be with you this morning, and thank you all for the work that you do, taking care of children in our communities and helping to guide them, educate them, and just love on them. So how did I get here? I've been very active in my community, and I actually served as the executive director of the Shelby Senior Center. And so got involved with public policy, beginning through our local area agency on aging, as well as building codes and trying to open a new building, and started showing up at city council meetings, and they would look at me and say, "Do you have something to say?" I'm like, "Nope, I'm just here to listen." And before I knew it, my name was on a ballot, and I won an election and became a mayor. It kind of happened in a blur. And then I went into, became a county commissioner in Richland County and found my way to the State House. So I have been in elected service since 2010. Working on public policy has actually been my favorite thing to do, which is why I'm really enjoying my time here in Columbus. And also just getting to work with great groups like Groundwork Ohio on what we can do to help with taking care of our children and so many other aspects of our communities. But it's good to be with you this morning.
Thanks, Representative.
Thank you. Good morning. Paula Hicks Hudson. I currently serve the 11th district in the Senate, which encompasses Lucas County. But I look at my role as really being a representative and in collaboration with the other elected officials from Northwest Ohio. How I got here is really by happenstance. I did not intend to seek elected office, but I worked a few years before in Governor Strickland's administration in the Office of Budget and Management. When he was not reelected, I returned back to Toledo, and at the urging of really mentors and leaders in our community, I was elected to city council, or I sought the appointment and was appointed to city council. I became president of council, and unfortunately, within probably 6 months, the mayor of the city of Toledo died unexpectedly, and I became mayor. And so, and from there, my work brought me here to the State House. But really how I got involved in this idea about public service is I come from a family that believes that we must return to this earth and to others the gifts that we've been given. And we must advocate for those who may not have all of the resources and all of the things that I have. So there's a thing that too much that is given, much is required. And I have other kinds of sayings, but that's pretty much where I am. So I'm in this particular platform moving forward to represent the people, as I said, not only in my district of Northwest Ohio, and also District 11.
Thanks so much, Senator. And how lucky are we to have two women who have served as mayor in our State House who can offer that kind of on-the-ground perspective. The appropriations might happen in large part here, but to see the programs up close, I think is a really unique perspective to bring. I know we've got some folks from both of your districts. I'll just pause, and if you are here from Richland County, why don't you go ahead and wave? Yeah, thanks for making the drive down 71. And then who do we have here from Toledo? Let's see our Toledo contingent waving. Fantastic. Thank you all for getting up so early and making your way to the State House. Let me just do a quick check and make sure we don't have any other panelists. Okay, great. We'll move on to the next question, and we'll just keep it like a rolling panel. So as we all know, Groundwork focuses uniquely on prenatal to age 5, right? So that's the unique age group that we're looking at. And why do we do that? It's because that is the period of time when over 90% of a child's brain is formed. It's a critical, foundational time, as everyone in this room knows, and that's why you're committing your day to this work. We work closely with partners from business to childcare and healthcare professionals, parents. Do we have some parents in the room this morning? Some parent ambassadors? Yeah? Fantastic. And other community leaders as we work to build policies that will make Ohio the best place to be a young child. And we also know that the budget, whether it's your household budget, your city's budget, or your state budget, is a statement of priorities. So we would love to hear from both of you how you see the budget as an opportunity for prioritizing young children and families this General Assembly. Would you like to start, Senator?
I can try to start. As you know, the budget starts in the House. And so we're waiting to see, even though the governor has issued what they call the Red Book, which is his priorities. And I believe that, my time in the legislature, I've seen where there has been an increase in attention to, generally some issues that affect young people, such as reading. But we are falling short when it comes to making sure that we are providing the resources, the funding necessary for educating our children. So I always stand on the outside asking the question, how much does it really cost to educate our children in the state of Ohio? From preschool, 3 years old, to 22. I mean, that's my radical look at that. As it relates to other issues such as, I'm really interested in the health and well-being of families. So I'm really pushing for an urban agricultural piece of added to the budget, which was not in the governor's budget. So I believe that as we move forward with this budget, we'll be able to advocate for those things that are necessary. There are some good things in this budget, no question about it. I serve on the Children's Task Trust Fund, and that was, I think, a very smart thing to do, to try to bring in all of the different programs that touch on children to ensure, one, that we're not duplicating, and two, that we're really focusing on those things and the needs of families as well as children. I can go on and on, so I'm going to stop and let my colleague from the House begin.
Thank you so much, Senator. And Rep. John, if you wouldn't mind answering that question, and then we'll go back to Senator Blessing and Rep. Sweeney and give them a proper introduction as well.
Yeah, so first, I'll just say I'm a mom, and while my children are past preschool age, I remember those years with them and the significance and importance of those years, and the impact that we as parents can have on them, but also other people who just step up to love our children as well, including teachers. And so I will agree wholeheartedly with my colleague here that there has been much discussion, not just in Columbus, about the issue of childcare, early childhood education, early childhood intervention. I want to give a huge shout out to my district. I have the Amy's here, Amy Baker, Amy Heiner, and the efforts that they are putting in Richland County. We have Richland County Foundation, and within that foundation there is a women's fund. And these two ladies, who are also moms, and they understand very much the importance and significance of this, they have made this a priority in Richland County and the surrounding area to say, what can we do locally to have a positive impact on this, to build capacity, because right now we need more individuals in this space taking care of children. What can we do to help those that are in this space, that have centers, that have home-based centers? What can we do to help them elevate the spaces that they already have, the businesses that they already have, and support? And then also, how can we advocate with Columbus? So I want to thank them. They put together a great panel discussion in my district about 6 weeks ago, I think it was, and we had really good discussions about what we can do here in Columbus to help impact the districts, because the districts is where all of the work, the communities that you all live in, that's where the work is taking place. And so what can we do to help support that? But it's going to take honest conversation and coming at it from a lot of different angles. I will also say, and Rep. Sweeney has heard this from me already, but my mom had a child care center in our home when I was little. And so I was very used to getting off the school bus and there being all kinds of little kids in our house because my mom was taking care of them. And I still am friends on Facebook today with people. I am old too. So I am still friends with people on Facebook that my mom took care of when they were little. because it was a priority to her and it was a gift that she had. So I understand firsthand the significance of the work that you all do and what we need to look at it from Columbus and how we can help and support you.
Thank you both so much. I would love to, let's do a round of applause.
Thanks.
Who's here from family? Do we have any family childcare providers? Raise your hand loud and proud. Yes. Thank you for the work you do. Oh yeah, she's got the sign up. Yes. We'll get those out. We'll get those out later this morning as well. Well, I want to take a step back for a moment. I mentioned before you both came over that you were coming straight from committee, so thank you so much for fitting us into such a busy time. Senator Blessing, if you wanted to just share a little bit about your background and what brought you to the State House, and we'll ask Rep. Sweeney to do the same.
Sure, thank you. So, as I'm sure you can imagine, many of us in the political space also have family members that are or were in the political space. I got into politics following my father. He was in the General Assembly for 30 years. Then I followed on his footsteps there in the Ohio House from 2013 to 2019, and then was appointed to the Ohio Senate, where I've been ever since. My background is an engineer, which has zero value for the legislature, other than I guess maybe a little bit of math. But originally, I was very focused on economics. I still am, but like some of my colleagues here, I have children. I have 3 boys, 8, 6. Well, just recently 6, and 2, and between having them as newborns, toddlers, and now boys, the thing that just absolutely just made me do a 180 and start focusing on early childhood education was, holy cow, the cost of this is unbelievable. Like it was like $30,000 a year that we were paying for childcare, and you think about that. For people in the middle class, it's impossible for them to deal with that burden. Most people just have one parent stay home if they can do that, or if they're a single parent, good luck. And that to me is absolutely a travesty, and the state can do way, way better than that. So anyway, I have that is my path going forward. I do have a number of legislative proposals, obviously, that we can discuss, many of which I'm sure you would be fans of when we describe what they are. But I guess we won't belabor the point and move on to some of the Q&A.
Thank you, Senator. Rep. Sweeney.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. I am State Representative Bride Rose Sweeney. I've been this is my 4th and final term in the House. Before that, I was actually an aide in the Ohio Senate for about 4 years, working for a variety of different senators. I, too, also did grow up in a political family, but I never in a million years thought that I would run for office. I remember one time asking my dad, making the connection, I'm like, your job is for people to complain to you all day? He's like, that's a great way to put it. But I was always I think part of seeing politics so up and close and personal, you also see how much it can impact people's lives. And so I was always connected to that. I went to John Carroll, was going to be a business major. I'll never forget, halfway through sophomore year, making the decision to follow my passions, and I'm going to do political science, and my dad saying, why in the world would you do that? He actually said, you are way too smart to get into politics, but as soon as I said I wanted to, but the goal was, I realized really quickly that it was the state legislature, more than the federal government, more than our local government, not that they're not important, but it was a state legislature that was making decisions every week. Some I agreed with, many I did not, that I realized that none of the people I went to school with understood or cared about or wasn't kind of in their daily lives. And so I was just so connected to spending my time at this level that makes so many decisions on how we can provide for our families, if we're able to do our jobs. And I was an aide for 4 years. I'll never forget the first time getting a quote in Cleveland.com that you wrote for your boss. And then 4 years go by, I go back home, and I had this light bulb moment of, I was meeting other candidates running for the seat that represented me of, oh, like, should I spend the rest of my life giving my word to someone else? I could just say my own words at the age of 25. The confidence of a 25-year-old with nothing to lose, I decided to run for office, and I'm so grateful for that journey. I never thought be here, but I do want to just piggyback on the connection to childcare. I do not have children, but I'm at the age where every single one of my friends has a child. It's a small gathering of infants every time we hang out. I see it just destroying my friends who are working class, and a little bit, some of them are upper class, and it's still a huge burden. And I just want to commend, look around how many people are in this room. There is a lot of advocacy days. There's a lot of luncheons. We speak, I feel like me and Senator Blessing are doing like a panel tour. And this is a remarkable crowd, and I really want to commend the work that Groundwork has been doing for the past 10 years since I've been here, of saying the same thing. Nothing has changed. The only thing that has changed is the problem has gotten worse. And I really want to commend, the business community that is speaking out more than ever. And from lawmakers, I cannot be more excited that Representative John is on the Finance Committee. The way that she has spoken about these issues from experience is how we actually change things that seem immovable. It seems like, I'm sure I feel my job is just pushing the boulder up the hill, or not even moving it, getting an inch just to roll back 5 inches or 5 miles sometimes. But the only way we ever change is by not giving up. And I always want people to know, I think you guys are the most powerful people in this room, not the ones on the stage. Obviously, we have the actual power to push the green or red button, but if you are not making this a fighting issue, if you are not forcing lawmakers to face the reality of what we have done of ignoring this issue, we wouldn't be where we are today, what the governor's proposing. It is remarkable, and so I hope you understand that power. And don't let any lawmaker look at you in face and say that we do not have the money. We do not have the ability. We cannot afford to ignore it anymore. And this is the time we should really make a big movement and support what the governor did and get that over the finish line.
Thank you so much, Ranking Member Sweeney. I think that's the perfect segue to our next question. I'll start, Rep. John, if you're willing to share. Obviously, we're surrounded by 400 advocates who care deeply about this topic. Many folks, if we've asked you already, I'm going to ask you again. If it's your first day at the State House, raise your hand. If it's your first advocacy day, thank you so much for being here. That is incredible, absolutely incredible. So for our first timers and for our frequent flyers, what are some of your tips for having the most effective conversations with legislators and their staff today? We'll start with Rep. John and go down the line.
Well, first of all, come back. Don't let this be the last time you come to the State House. So I think that the solutions really exist within the communities too. Like, you all know best how to solve a lot of the problems that we're dealing with, not just when it comes to childcare, but a myriad of issues that we're dealing with here at the State House. So making sure to have conversations, know who your representatives are, know who your senator is, know who your representative is, know who your local elected officials are. Like, make that part of what you do. Show up to city council meetings, show up to county commissioners meetings. They meet at least once a week, county commissioners do. Even if it's just to listen to what they're talking about. I can't tell you how many public meetings I've attended as an elected official, and it's just us in the room. Nobody else is there. So if you want your voice to be heard, call them, email them, show up at their office, show up at their public meeting, talk to them. Let them know who you are and advocate. I go back to the meeting that we had 6 weeks ago. That was because of 2 moms that live in my district who want to make a difference. And they organized a meeting. And those types of meetings, that's not, that as great as it was, Amy and Amy, it's not unique. It happens frequently in Richland County. We talk a lot. I don't even know how many times I've texted, called with an elected official or someone else from my district just this week. And is this Wednesday morning? I sometimes forget, honestly, what day it is. So a lot of conversation. That's how we solve problems. That's how we know we are not experts. I don't think I'm an expert in just about anything, but we're not experts on all of the subject matters that we touch and that we make decisions on. So we depend on you to give us your expertise in areas. Tell us what your lived experience is so that we can pass the best policies to fit what happens within our communities. So show up, call. It's about a relationship. Just like you build relationships with your families that you serve, with the little ones that you love and take care of, it's about relationships and building those relationships with those of us that serve here in Columbus, but also those that serve locally for you. So welcome to the State House. Come back.
Thank you so much. Senator?
Thank you so much for that question. Having been a community organizer in my previous lives, I think it is important about making relationships, but I also think it's important about coming into the office and also sending information to us, as was said, but also I think you need to hold us accountable. When we don't answer your questions or we don't explain why things happen the way that they do, that's a failure in terms of this relationship and communications. We're not necessarily here, and we're not perfect, and there are a number of different dynamics that do come into play in how things how things move through the chambers and get to the Senate, to the governor's desk. I strongly suggest that you follow the advice of my colleague by showing up, but also not forgetting to constantly give us reminders that you're watching and that what the ask is, and be really clear about what the ask is. Something in the reality of what we're facing. Right now, our budget is we don't have the federal money. We don't know what is going to happen at the federal government as it relates to the budget. So we need to look at what's going to be realistic for us here in the state of Ohio. What's going to be realistic in your communities? What's the makeup of that community? How willing are they to walk with all of us to get to the result that we know? We need to make the case very clearly as to why it's important that we make sure our young people are educated, that babies are safe, that our systems are working, and that requires your conversations because you are in the mix and you're dealing with the food banks and the lack of fresh, good food and the concern that they have. You understand that last GA we put forward with an idea that we're going to try to expand access to childcare, but in actuality, it kind of shrunk for certain childcare providers and for moms and dads to use those resources. We needed to hear that, and we needed to hear that early in the process so that there can be ways to make adjustments. So advocacy is more than just showing up once a year. It's a constant, sustained activity that requires your expertise and your willingness to make those calls. We're all busy doing the work, but part of the work is making sure that you hold us accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hicks Hudson. Senator Blessing, any additional tips for our advocates today and beyond?
Yeah, so I will echo what my colleagues have said, but I would give you a brief example of what I'm talking about here. But I would say you really should look into even further coalition building. So yes, you have a ton of people here today. That's spectacular. But you need to be partnering with a lot of other organizations that can help you move the needle here in Columbus. And to give you an example of that is going back to the gas tax increase in 2019. And plenty of legislators are like, "Oh, I don't want to have a tax increase on my record. That would kill me." And at the time, the governor wanted to do it. He's like, "Look, our roads and bridges need a lot of work. We're going to do this." But the coalition that got that across the finish line was also the business community, organized labor, county engineers. It was pretty powerful at the end of the day, and they were successful. And I think that you guys, whether you know it or not, do have a lot of those folks in your corner. Recently, the Business Roundtable put out an article about some things that they wanted to see done at the state level and addressed, and one of them was early childhood education, childcare generally, as well as housing and a few other issues. What I did not see in that article was an income tax cut. And I think part of their understanding was these are priorities that need to be funded first before we do something like that. And so I think if you partner with them and some other groups, I think you guys could very easily be successful, because I believe a lot of the issues that you're advocating for are absolutely ripe to get done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator. And I'm sure our team is taking notes over there to look that article up, so thank you. Representative Sweeney?
I agree with absolutely everything that's been said. To put just a finer point on the reality, I represent 110,000 people in the House. Our senators represent about 3 times of that. If you actually look at the amount of people from your district that ever actually email on any type of issue, you would realize how just by doing that small act, mind you, that's not enough to Representative John and Senator Hitchcock's point about having the relationship and holding those people accountable. It's probably 5%, if I'm being generous, of the people that are actually engaging in this way. And really, I will say, it's just the reality is the number one thing most lawmakers should care about and do are their own constituents. 1, because that's our job, but 2, but you guys are our bosses and you can fire us. And that's where that accountability holds in. Yes, yeah. And the other piece is the unfortunate realities in the state of Ohio is this is a real problem, but there's a lot of other real problems in the state as well. We're fighting not to defund public schools. We're trying to make sure people have child care, make sure people have dignity if they're incarcerated. And I actually would venture to say most, maybe not all, but most of my colleagues care about those same issues. It's really hard to make these decisions, but it is, don't let us take the easy way out. And that's, making it harder for me and all of us on this stage, but that is our job to make hard decisions. And just the other piece of advice is not all lawmakers have the same viewpoints, nor should they. That's why we have 99 people in the House coming from all parts of the state, from all different types of backgrounds. Mind you, of course, we absolutely need more diversity in the State House. But the reality is that not everyone, we can care about the same goal, but they might have different reasons. And I see sometimes advocates get lost in that it's so clear to you why this is important. It's so obvious, and to me, it is too. But for some, you can win them on the moral argument, the moral imperative to make sure our babies are not dying, the moral imperative to make sure our Black babies and our Black mothers are not dying at unexcusable, there's no excuse for that, but you can't look at that data and point to anything besides disparity within this system. You can win a lot of lawmakers on that point, but you can win lawmakers if you understand them. We should care about the economic impact. But the best thing is the moral imperative here and the economic impact are really one and the same, but that's not always obvious. And so really looking at and trying to understand your lawmaker, and that's why it's so important to sit down with them. What do they care about? Why did they run for office? And you can get them to understand. I always use the phrasing, I hear a lot, that the government incentivizes people not to work. I couldn't agree more, because we have failed in childcare. We incentivize moms or parents or caregivers not to work. It is obscene that it is more expensive to pay for childcare than it is to work in some jobs. That is our failure. And so when you maybe frame it in that way, you might be like, oh, I never thought about that way, because I might have concerns about other programs, but it is true. And that is why you see, I quote these studies from NFIB, which is our Small Business Community Association, the Chamber of Commerce. They just surveyed their own workers. And why aren't people participating? because they don't have access to get to work, and they can't have childcare if they have children. The business community helped us in the transportation budget. We have been fighting for public transit to get to $100 million since I was in aid. We got there 2 budgets ago because we said, to Senator Blessing's point, let's work with the business community instead of just asking for $100 million, or we were looking for a $30 million gap. Instead of just asking for more money, let's have that money be a grant program to get people, to use that money to get people to work. It's still helping the same cause, and all of a sudden you had people who maybe didn't understand the need of public transit. All of a sudden you're saying, well, this money can only be used if you're transporting people to work, and it's the #1 issue in the state. All of a sudden you had people that I couldn't believe were supporting this, and that same thing could happen if we don't just assume everyone, some are, that are just against us because they just don't want to spend the money and they just want us to have, to cut everything and what have you. But across the board, there are plenty of lawmakers, if we give them the chance to find a way to care about the same issues and speak on their terms, it can really turn off some light bulbs on and can really start seeing some movement when we take that approach.
Thank you so much. And I think a lot of the comments are resonating with some of the work that we're trying to incentivize here, this coalition building across different interest groups. I also want to note, while we as voters can fire folks, we can also give our elected officials who are showing up, who are turning out, and who are prioritizing these policies, like our panel today, we can also thank them, and we can also elevate them and do that too. So I encourage advocates to do that as well. I know we're running a little closer to the end. I wanted to make a quick note. Representative John did share she had a meeting with the speaker at 10:30, so she apologizes she had to leave a little bit early. But I would love to hear, within the budget and beyond, maybe in other standalone bills, and Senator Hicks Hudson, we can start with you. What are some policies that you're championing or that you're supporting that would benefit Ohio's children?
I'm not even sure where to begin because my brain, well, he knows because I just ran out of committee before the senator more graciously decided to do his duty. I just left. So where do I begin? First of all, when I came to the legislature, I was very concerned about maternal health and infant mortality. So we're going to continue to work to expand access for not only preterm, but also post-term coverage. Help Me Grow is one of the programs that we have, and we need to really fully fund it and expand it. So met with some people yesterday about that, so we're going to really try to protect that, and if there's ways we can expand it. Secondly, you heard me talk about universal pre-K and child care. That's another reason why I'm here. You heard my crazy idea earlier about we need to fund education from 3 to 22. So, and I believe we need to be able to, and whatever that looks like, there are ways to do that. Let's see what else.
I mean, that list right there is significant. Well,
I'm also known as the urban ag legislator because I believe that is one way in which we can grow healthy communities and deal with some of the challenges that local governments have, having to cut grass, clean up debris, but also we know that under what we're happening in our economy, and in Ohio, we need to come back to growing our own food. If COVID didn't teach us anything, it taught us that we need to take care of ourselves. So I'm going to stop there. There's others, but I think most importantly, it's looking at how we collectively, and I think Rep. Sweeney talked about it, there are more things that we have as legislators that are in common than what we have differently. And although you didn't ask me this question, I tell everyone, for your mental health and for your good, stop watching, I won't even call it news. Whatever that is, that find another source and multiple sources of information, because there's more things that are happening here positively then there's some negative stuff, but there's also some things that are happening. So we need your help to focus on those things that we can take care of. And one of the things you can do for your mental health, stop watching whatever that stuff is, because it's not news.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Blessing.
Wow, how do you follow that? I will say this, not to bring partisan politics into it, but I am a Republican, but I am also very much in the corner of my colleague here. We definitely need universal child care. But that said, in the meantime, there are a number of proposals that we have been working on, and I want to stress we because I've had Democratic joint sponsors on a number of bills that I think you guys would find very valuable. I know, even though we dropped it last General Assembly at the very end to be out there for public inspection, but it was called A Good Deal for Ohio, Senate Bill 342, and it got publicly funded child care up to 200% of the federal poverty level, along with a bunch of other things. Thank you. But here's the catch. Everything that was in that bill, including universal free breakfast and lunch, the entirety of the property tax circuit breaker, truing up the Ohio Housing Trust Fund, all of it was revenue neutral. All we did was go through, and when I say we, I mean Senator Kent Smith and I, went through the tax expenditure list. We looked at some of our other tax policy and said, this is just either a rank giveaway or it's wildly out of step with where we need to be. So we paid for it, revenue neutral. So we could have it today. And beyond that, this General Assembly, we have obviously Ken Smith and I, the free breakfast and lunch bill, but, been soliciting co-sponsor requests for the idea that child care workers get free child care. And I think it's a great idea. And if you can believe it, Kentucky already has that. It's a red state. Why can't Ohio have nice things? To paraphrase my late friend Bridget Kelly, who used to always lament this: we can't have nice things. I'm like, it kind of seems that way. But beyond that, those are the sorts of things that we need to get into the budget. In addition to some of the things the governor's working on, I really agree with, but. Again, just remember the money is there. The cost of the universal school breakfast, $300 million. To get to 200% of federal poverty level for publicly funded child care is like $100 million. Even a Oregon-style earned income tax credit, that's about $200 million. And talk right now is of doing a flat tax to just get this to a flat 2.75%. There's legislation out there. It doesn't apply to anybody under $100,000. You get nothing from that. That's like $1 billion hole in the budget. So when people tell you that the money is not there, it is objectively wrong. We have a choice. I want to have my choice being working with you guys, doing what we can for early childhood education and childcare, not necessarily doing these income tax cuts, although I don't want to totally close the door on tax cuts because I do think we need to do something in the property tax space. But that said, I think what you guys are doing is much more valuable. And here's another argument briefly before I turn it over to Rep. Sweeney. This talk of like putting money into people's pockets as justification for tax cuts misses what I think is a fundamental key economic point here with publicly funded child care and having universal child care in general. What do you think happens when people do not have to pay the significant costs of child care? A lot of people will re-enter the workforce, which is a net good. There is no tax cut that we could ever do that would ever make up for savings of like 15 to 30 grand saved on child care. That will boost real wages significantly, even if nominal wages stay flat. So, I can't imagine there's an economist on the planet that would argue we should do a top rate income tax cut now as opposed to what you guys are advocating for. So I would hope that you guys use that argument. I will be having a lot of fun in committee using that argument myself. I enjoy the combat, and I'll turn it over to Representative Sweeney.
Thank you.
So I just want to start with really acknowledging how much me and Senator Hitzexon came in as freshmen, and she is just such a fierce advocate. And Senator Blessing, I think, is such a fantastic, reasonable individual, which is so rare these days, it feels like. For both of them. But I can't help, but I'm going to be the realist. All of what they said is absolutely true, but I want to really paint the picture of the risk and the hill and the boulder that we are pushing. There is absolutely people right now that are trying to cut the child tax credit. They are trying to, we have a Doge caucus, they're going through, some people are saying the only thing I'm recommending to this budget is cuts. And we keep hearing that there's no money at the state. There's less money than there should be because we made that decision, and we should absolutely, my goal starting in this year was to make sure people knew exactly the phrasing that Senator Blessing said, that we decided to cut our budget and we can decide to uncut it. We can decide all these things, and the fact that him and Senator Smith have a bill that show it can be done, revenue neutral, is the standard we should compare ourselves to. But I am a realist, and what we need to fight is for the governor's version of the budget, because we've failed for so long, and that it can get done while we're showing the nice things that we can really have. And it's really important if we get this to at least 200%, that we understand it's not just about getting more families more eligible, because if providers can't actually make money off of having them, it doesn't mean anything. You have to do it, and the plan that the Director Wente and the governor came up with makes real gains, and it's real. That can happen if we force it to happen. And that is, to me, the number one thing we're fighting for. And it's fantastic. And I think it helps the argument to compare that the things they talked about aren't Democrat or Republican. We aren't just blowing a hole in the budget. And it makes the stuff almost small potatoes. Instead of because some people are acting as if, and are saying publicly that's unsustainable. It's unsustainable not to do it. That should be the narrative we're going forward with. And so, and the last thing I'm gonna say is, once we get this done of getting more families eligible, getting more reimbursements, having childcare workers, maybe we can't get all of them, let's get 1,000 of them and then keep working next year. Even small incremental change, if we keep working, the important piece is we never let, especially us on the stage, pat ourselves on the back and say we fixed it. It's gonna take all of our lifetime to ever truly give Ohio what they need in this space. And so we have to keep fighting, even if we have major wins, even if we have small wins, because that's what our children need and it's what Ohio needs.
And what a great day for us to have the state of the state and that governor coming on stage himself here shortly later today, and we can show him our appreciation for the investments he's made in the current budget. So Ranking Member Sweeney, Senator Blessing, Senator Hicks Hudson, we cannot thank you enough for your leadership, for prioritizing these issues, for taking the busiest time of the year, taking an hour to come spend with us. And I know we didn't do, if you're from Cincinnati or Cleveland, raise your hand so they know how many folks are in the room from their districts. Amazing. Thank you all for being the leaders that you are. We appreciate the partnership. We appreciate the insights and the leadership that you all provide. And we hope you have a wonderful budget season and take some time for your own selves and your own health. Thanks for being champions for kids.
All right, thank you again to our legislative leaders. You can see why we allow them to do the talking, to really tell you how you can interact best with your policymakers today, and just the challenge at hand. There's lots to celebrate in this room and all of our work, but a big challenge ahead of us, which is why we're all here today. Now we get to really honor some of our legislative children's champions who over the past couple of years have been outstanding in spending the time to understand what is a very complex system of programs, and funding streams that go into pregnant women, infants, toddlers, preschoolers, and their families. So I want to first, I'm going to do this a little out of order as I see folks who are able to be here. First, Representative Bill Romer from Richfield, and ask him to come up.
And I understand they gave him about 20 minutes, so I really appreciate that. But more like 20 seconds, because multiple of us are in finance right now working on some really, really difficult issues. I want to really shout out Representative White, who works very closely with me. Now I have to say Representative Andrea White, because there's two Whites now. But Representative Andrea White has brought me on board. I do a lot of tax stuff. We have a public-private partnership to allow a tax credit for at least 13 different public-private child care centers. We know that if you have on-site or very close child care, it's better for the families, it's better for the mom or dad who's working, but it's also better for the business. And one of the things that we do is we try to really look for those things that benefit business, because that's obviously very important, but children and families. So with Representative White and myself, we're going to work on getting it in the budget also. It's $10 million, but we believe it would be a massive advantage for all of Ohio. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you to the representative, and I wanted to make sure you heard from him directly as he rushes off back to Finance Committee. But we will continue to elevate his bill, and he is on the Finance Committee. He also leads the House Ways and Means Committee that has heard testimony on the child tax credit. So we appreciate him and his expertise over time. The next legislator we want to invite up is Representative Denny Isaacson from Cincinnati.
Good morning, everyone. And thank you to Groundwork for the incredible work you all do and your leadership. But I also just want to start by thanking everyone in here. Thank you for the work you are doing to lift up the rest of us. Our society does not function. Nothing happens if you are not doing the work you're doing and doing it well and with love and care. So thank you. Our job is to match that level of love and care and to show you that we also want to fight for the kids that you're taking care of and the families that you're serving. And so I put that front and center in this work. I'll give her a shout out because she was just up here. I learned a lot of that from Representative Sweeney, and we've been proud to partner on a piece of legislation that would make child care free for child care providers. And it's a recognition that good policy can also be the right thing to do, right? And in Cincinnati, we have the incredible fortune of being one of the tri-state areas, and my district is right on the river. So I have child care providers in my district, the YMCA and others, that are providing child care on both sides. And so we have real life examples of what it means to the child care industry, to child care providers, to families and their children, when you can do this type of policy, because Kentucky has it, we don't, and it's night and day. And so what we are fighting for is a pretty simple premise, honestly. If Kentucky can do it, so can we. No shade to Kentucky. So that is part of the agenda of we need more of the things that matter, and we can do it with smart government. We need more childcare, more healthcare, more housing, more transportation. And we can achieve those things with smart and good government. They don't all actually have to cost more. We save money by investing in them on the front end in the right ways, and nothing is more fundamental to that than how we take care of and educate and prepare our children. So thank you again to Groundwork. Thank you for the work you're all doing. We will continue to be your partner and advocate here in the State House. So continue to use us and call on us in that way. So thank you so much. This means so much to me.
Thank you. Our next Children's Champion Award is going to Senator Michelle Reynolds. She's a Republican here from Central Ohio in Canal Winchester. And she has been a fierce advocate of what is the Child Care Cred Bill, offering an opportunity for public-private partnerships to support child care capacity here. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the People's House. I'm State Senator Michelle Reynolds, representing Ohio Senate District 3. So if you live in Franklin County or Pickaway County or Madison County, chances are that I am your state senator. But I want to thank Groundwork Ohio for this award, for recognizing the work that I'm doing here at the State House to make child care more affordable. As a mother and now grandmother, I understand firsthand how expensive childcare is, and I actually help my children with childcare because it's just that unaffordable. And so with the Child Care Cred Bill, which is Senate Bill 32, we are looking to make childcare more affordable by using the tri-share model. We know that that state up north has done it, but we can do better than that, right? So we are right-sizing the bill, making it work for Ohio, because we understand that childcare is a workforce issue. It's also a family issue, and we need to be able to support our families and our working families. And so with that bill, it allows us to make childcare more affordable and accessible by supporting our families with funding from the family side. They can pay up to a third, the state pays up to a third, and also the employer can do an elective share, a third or even more. And that will help us to be able to make sure that childcare can meet the needs of our families. But it also supports our businesses, because with childcare being so unpredictable, our providers sometimes just can't afford to keep their doors open. And we are trying to also develop more providers in the state of Ohio from a quality standpoint and a quantity standpoint. So just thank you for all that you all are doing. And I just want to give a shout out to Groundwork Ohio, because you guys are the best in business when it comes to policy, especially around child welfare policy. We get a lot of our data and information from you, and we know that you're a trusted source in this space. And so thank you so much for informing our work so that we can create good policies. And I appreciate you recognizing the work, and we're going to keep fighting hard. Thank you.
Finally, we are recognizing Senator Beth Liston. She is not able to be with us. She is ill, but she has been a really strong advocate serving on the finance and leading finance subcommittees, and has spent honestly hours of time understanding the child care system, because she comes to the legislative work as a pediatrician, as a physician, and has deep wealth of experience in the Medicaid space in the infant, when we've discussed with her about how to serve babies, serve moms through the Medicaid program. So thank you to Senator Liston, and we will make sure her award is delivered later this afternoon. What's really exciting, and I hope you see from the legislative panel and our legislative award winners, is that just like you all have the talking points, so do they. And building upon their own personal and professional experience, Groundwork, and you all have been partnering with them. There's lots of opportunities to engage all of the legislation that was mentioned. Groundwork has testified in support of those measures, and many of you have as well. We will continue to do so. And many of them are certainly, certain of their priorities in the budget. We also view them as building upon or in addition to the core investments that we're really going to focus on this afternoon in our legislative meetings when it comes to child care, when it comes to the child tax credit, home visiting, early intervention, and our other system investment. So one more round of applause for our legislative leaders. One thing that struck me on the panel was, especially as you listen to our policymakers talk about how their path to how they got here, is you had someone who was mayor before coming to the state legislature, and that's very often that you have local policymakers and we engage them that then come to the State House and sometimes then return to local policy. And I want to acknowledge we have an local elected official, Councilwoman Denise Williams from the city of Toledo up here. I had the opportunity to meet her this morning in person, and she also operates a child care center. So you have another advocate and a local elected official. So thank you for being here. I get the distinct pleasure now of introducing our keynote speaker, Jill Miller. Jill Miller is president and CEO of Bethesda, Inc. It's co-sponsor of TriHealth and creator of the BI3 Fund. You will note that BI3 is a sponsor of this event today and has been supporting Groundwork as a funder in the infant and maternal mortality space. Under her leadership, BI3 has awarded over $105 million to advance health equity and innovation, contributing to efforts that have saved nearly 220 infants in Hamilton County. A champion of trust-based philanthropy, she co-authored Infant Mortality and Other Wicked Problems, which you will see at your seat in front of you, and is a sought-after speaker on health equity. Jill serves on multiple boards, including the Health Policy Institute of Ohio, and has been recognized as a 2024 YWCA Career Woman of Achievement and a Cincinnati Business Courier 2023 Woman Who Means Business. And she does. Please join me in thanking her for sponsoring today's event and introducing her and asking her to come up as today's keynote speaker. And before we hear from Jill, and as I come off the stage, please take a look at this PBS News story about Cradle Cincinnati, a community impact model finding success addressing infant mortality.
Wow. Spring.
Single mom India Brown.
Thank you, Lynanne. Thank you, Groundwork Ohio. I am so excited to be in this amazing room with so many advocates for Ohio children and families, and I just want you to give yourselves an applause. One thing, Lynanne, is there a clicker up here that I'm not seeing? Okay, yes. Sorry, minor housekeeping. I want to deliver a message today, and if you remember 3 key things from this message, I want you to remember that we need to listen to those who are closest to the problems, who have the lived experience. Second, change is doable, and it may not feel like it in this moment or when the world is crazy, but change is doable. And 3, you can advocate and spark change. Next slide, please. So how does your community treat your babies? And why should you care? Morally, 1 preventable infant death is 1 too many. 2, the cost to families, the cost to communities. And 3, it is a key indicator of your community's overall health. It's like the canary in the coal mine. If your infant mortality rate is high, it means your community has other health issues that it needs to face. 220. This is why I stand here today. 220 children are alive today in Hamilton County because of our collective efforts to reduce infant mortality. That is eight classrooms of kids. And how did we get this? How did we accomplish this? Through advocacy. I'm going to recap some of the important points from the PBS feature you just saw. One is that, and Carol Wente commented on this as well, is that Ohio falls in the bottom 25% for infant mortality. When you look across Ohio, in 2011, Hamilton County had one of the highest infant mortality rates in the state. It also had the second highest infant mortality across the country relative communities our size. And if you see this map, you will notice that it's not just an urban issue, it is a rural issue as well. What was driving it? Preterm birth, followed by sleep-related deaths. And who was affected most? Our Black moms and babies. Black babies were dying at over 3 times the rate of white babies. And we looked at a particular neighborhood, Avondale, that is located in the backyard of Cincinnati Children's, one of the top children's hospitals in the country. And they had the highest infant mortality rate at 18.9. But as you saw in the video, change is doable. If you listen to those with lived experience, they know what they need, they know what they want, and they know how to create solutions with us. In 2018, Dr. Meredith Shockley-Smith joined Cradle Cincinnati and led an effort to create space for Black women to feel seen and heard, to support one another and each other, to find relaxation and rejuvenation. And I believe every parent in this room can probably relate to these 2 quotes from the video. The data doesn't lie. And so as you can see again, in 2011, our infant mortality rate was 10.2. And over the past 12 years, we've been able to reach our aspirational goal of a 5.5 infant mortality rate across Hamilton County that is now on par with the national average. And how did we do this? By focusing in on the largest disparity. As you can see, our Black infant mortality rate, on the next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to back up a minute and say, how did we accomplish this? One thing the PBS video does not share is that, okay, now I'm on the right slide. I'm so sorry. I'm used to doing this myself. So we focused on the largest disparity, right? And you can see our infant mortality rate for Black babies was over 18. 18 babies per 1,000 live births were dying. And you can see that over the work we've done and the focus, that infant mortality rate is now in the single digits for the first time ever in Hamilton County. But you can also see by this chart that success is not a straight line, which is why you're all here today to continue to advocate for what Ohio children and families need. So how was this accomplished? This is something that the feature did not share with you. We shared the problem and we shared our progress. But how was this accomplished? And this is why Meredith Shockley-Smith and I joined forces to co-author the book, Infant Mortality and Other Wicked Problems. And in this book, we talk about, and we wrote this book to remind communities to listen to those with lived experience, that change is doable, and frankly, we just want to help save more lives. If we save one more baby because we wrote this book, it will be well worth our efforts. So not only did we tell our story, but we created a framework based on our successes and our lessons learned to help other communities think about how they can tackle wicked problems. Wicked problems that are problems with multiple, complex, often interconnected factors that are difficult to pinpoint, much less understand. And so together, we can create this change. And you can read this book from cover to back, or you can use it as a reference book on particular areas you're most interested in. And so I'm going to share a little bit about how who sparked change? And as I said, any individual organization can spark change, but in our community, it was former Hamilton County Commissioner Todd Portune. He knew what it was like to fear the loss of a child, and he was tired of our high infant mortality rates. So he held a summit around infant mortality in Hamilton County and drew on key leaders, brought key leaders together, including Drs. Greenberg and Kelly, who are featured in this picture with Meredith. And I will tell you that when you find just a few key champions, and I mean it can be 2 or 3 people who are willing to take that flag and keep pushing forward when things get hard, and they have done that for us over the past 12 years. Cincinnati Children's launched their Perinatal Institute in 2009 with an emphasis on infant mortality, knowing that they, even Cincinnati Children's, could not do this work alone. And BI3 has stepped up since 2012 to really fuel efforts in innovation and challenge our community to do things differently. So when we started this work and we looked at the data, it was clear, in particular, let's talk about Avondale, that 2/3 of moms were seeking early prenatal care. Over a third were not. So as we looked at the data, we saw that, okay, women call at 6 or 7 weeks pregnant, and then they are scheduled for an appointment 6 weeks out, which already puts them in the second trimester. So it must be an access issue. Yes, but there was more. And we needed to challenge our assumptions and get to the root causes. And the only way to do that was listening to the Avondale community. Now, you can't just walk into a community and start asking questions and thinking that everybody's going to answer them, right? You have to build trust. And so the way we built trust in Avondale was really leaning into the organizations they trusted, such as Every Child Succeeds and other nonprofits, community health workers. We needed their help, and one idea they had was, let's bring together physicians and mothers from the Avondale community, and they can have dinner together. Now, the physicians were super excited about this. They were going to get to educate moms on the importance of prenatal care. They were ready. And when they started in, moms were like, time out. This is not why we are here. We are here for you to learn about what we need and to build trust that when we show up to deliver our babies, we know that we're going to get the quality care we deserve. And so they shared with us that it wasn't just access, it was social barriers that were standing in their way. Mom was not late to a prenatal appointment because she didn't care about her pregnancy. She was late because she had to take 2 buses to get there. A mom was a no-show not because she didn't care, but she couldn't afford to leave work to go to her appointment. These are the social barriers that focusing only on access was not going to solve. And most importantly, they distrusted the healthcare system, and for good reason. There is structural racism that is built into every system, and they face discrimination. They do not always feel heard or valued or safe. So what did we do about this? First, Cincinnati Children's launched Cradle Cincinnati in 2012, and it was really to build awareness in our community around the problem and educate people on what they could do about the problem and how they could engage and help save more babies. And the video talked about the 3 S's: no smoking, safe sleep, and spacing between pregnancies. They also developed some community-driven strategies that put community health workers and home visitors into the community to connect with moms and connect them to the resources that they needed. Around the same time, BI3 gave a grant to support a new model of care that puts mom and babies in the center and surrounds them with the supports needed to have a healthy pregnancy. This model was focused on Avondale, and it was a 3-year pilot. When we started this pilot, Avondale was experiencing an extreme preterm birth every 26 days. By the end of this 3-year pilot, that fell to 0 for 2 straight years. And it didn't just fall, it fell with statistically significance. And you don't always have to achieve statistically significance to create movement, but it did help us leverage other dollars and gain that attention that we needed to build a movement. It also led to decreased NICU costs, and unprecedented collaboration among competing healthcare systems. Cincinnati is a very competitive healthcare market, and adult hospitals compete religiously. And so to bring them together in new ways to really say, let's build a model that moms and babes need, was very empowering. The beautiful thing about a pilot is you learn from it and you scale it if it works. We pulled the best components of our 3-year pilot and scaled it to 12 other neighborhoods. And we looked at the data to identify those 12 neighborhoods that had the highest rates of infant mortality. And a majority were neighborhoods that were in poverty and primarily Black. And so our focus became Black moms and babies. We also spread the model to healthcare. So Cradle Cincinnati created a learning collaborative that brought together healthcare providers, FQHCs, community-based organizations that were serving moms. And they all came behind a collective goal and developed measures that they would all contribute to. So one is example, decreasing smoking during pregnancy. To advocate, you need a strong narrative. Cradle Cincinnati's message is every baby deserves to see their first birthday. But I also stand before you and say, we know that that's not even enough. We know that we can't just get babies to their first birthdays. We need to make sure that they have good child care and education and communities to thrive. When developing a narrative, as you think about your meetings today, I challenge you to think about what is in it for the policymaker that you are speaking to. What do they care most about? And how is that connected to your issue? Don't only show stats, but appeal to the hearts and minds. You are experts in your own lived experience. You know the people you help every day. Lift up their voices and share testimonials. Infuse a sense of urgency. You guys have heard of the burning platform. Create that sense of urgency that they need to act now in this budget, not waiting till the next. And try to make it everybody's job. Everybody has a role to play. Be specific when you meet with your policymaker on what you're asking them to do. Are you asking them to advocate in committee? Are you asking them to create new legislation? Be specific and hold them accountable. And break down any stigmas that may, that people, so they can lean into better understanding, right? And so a great example of Cradle Cincinnati had to face is that some people thought that a woman who experiences an infant death is poor and Black. Well, I'm here to tell you that that is not true. And unfortunately, that a Black woman with a master's degree has more chances of losing her baby in a poor birthing experience than a white person with a high school diploma. And then get people to formalize their commitment. Key messaging. Think about that as you prepare for your conversations today. And build a movement. I think a movement is a great example of advocacy. And I think some people have it in their mind that building a movement is grassroots led by activists. And this movement was a diverse group of people who came together with one common agenda to save babies. It included healthcare, it included policymakers, it included funders, it included people and organizations, but most importantly, it encompassed Black women. Centering those closest to the problem and engaging with them is the most powerful thing that I have seen play out. This started by Meredith asking women to come to her house for dinner. And she held a group of Black women, and they talked about some of the barriers and the challenges they faced. And she invited them back the next month and said, next time, bring somebody with you. And this kept continuing until they outgrew Meredith's Health and now can meet in a community center where there is 1,000 Black women who are involved in Queens Village. We have found that when people feel seen and heard and supported, and most importantly, celebrated, that they find the power to advocate and change systems. Advocacy is about systems change, and these Black women have led systems change in Hamilton County. One thing that concerned them most is they did not have the information they needed to choose a birthing hospital. So they set out to say, it would be great if we created a structure where birthing hospitals shared their data so that we could make good birthing decisions. And that is exactly what Mama Certified has done. Now, if you would have told me birthing hospitals were going to share their information around maternal equity efforts within their hospitals, I would have told you you were crazy. But because we had been building this movement, because hospitals had been involved, because this wasn't about pitting hospitals against each other, this was about maternal equity throughout our community, you only needed one hospital system to step up and the rest followed. And so now our birthing hospitals in Cincinnati are receiving badges. They're evaluated yearly based on criteria in these 4 avenues, such as infant mortality, maternal care, staff care, and community care. This was developed by Black women for Black women. And guess what? When you work to improve maternal health for Black women, all women receive better quality care. These badges are displayed in hospitals, kind of that beacon of hope when a mom walks in to deliver her baby. And through community health workers and home visitors, we've branded this so that it's meaningful to Black women in the communities throughout Hamilton County. One of my key remarks that my staff hears all the time is philanthropy itself does not invest enough in advocacy. And it is the most powerful tool that we have. Not only do I encourage funders, but I encourage every one of you in the room, your most powerful tool is your voice. Don't lose it. Don't let anybody take it away from you. And now is the time to advocate. We cannot program our way out of our wicked problems. We need policy advocacy. Cincinnati Children's has a policy committee that includes a diverse group, including Queens Village. They are paid to stay abreast on policy and legislation that affects them, and they are trained to engage in the advocacy process. When we heard from our OB-GYNs that women were losing their coverage 60 days after they delivered their baby, my team and I had no idea. And so what did we do? We partnered with the experts. Thankfully, we know Margaret Holbert, who is in the room, who said, you need to talk to Shannon Jones and Lynanne Gutierrez at Groundwork Ohio. And so we had coffee with them, and we shared with them this problem that we were hearing from our OB-GYNs. And they said, now is the time to strike. And this is when I learned that timing is everything. The Rescue Act had just provided states with the opportunity to expand coverage from 60 days to 1 year postpartum. Not to mention the fact that we had the support of a governor who was prioritizing Ohio babies and children. And so together, with an investment from BI3, we stood up the Maternal and Young Child Health Center at Groundwork Ohio. And they continue to advocate for what is important, which is why you are here today. Together, we've expanded coverage for doula services. Now, I will say that is a work in progress. So I've learned that once you pass a policy, you can't stop there. You have to continue to advocate and watch the implementation and make sure it gets implemented in a way to help our communities. And our work is not over. Any disparity is unacceptable. And so Cradle Cincinnati has set a goal to reach a 5.0 infant mortality rate by 2027. We're expanding Queens Village, not just throughout the state, but throughout the country with public funding. The Ohio Department of Children and Youth, thank you, Kara, is partnering with Groundwork Ohio. She wants to take the best practices and learn from the progress we've made and expand it throughout the state. They recently released an RFP asking communities who is interested in doing this work. Because we have a bold goal before us. She wants to get us to a 4.4 infant mortality rate throughout the state. That is a bold goal, but change is doable. And so we're all here to advocate for Groundwork Ohio's policy agenda. You can use your voices to advocate for continuous Medicaid coverage for 0 to 3. You can use your voice to encourage child tax credits for families that make a big difference for them. You can advocate for childcare. Clearly, that is ripe for the taking based on what we've heard this morning. Even the business community is behind this. Home visiting and other programs that help moms and young children. We know that brains develop in that 0 to 3 space more than any other time in their life. Our children and babies need you to advocate for them. You can advocate so every child in Ohio has a fair and just opportunity to thrive. And it probably feels like the long game at this point in time, but the long game is worth playing, as you can see. If we would have given up on reducing infant mortality in year 3 or 5, we wouldn't have accomplished or made the progress or saved 220 children. And advocacy happens at all levels. So today we're at the state, but don't forget about the advocacy you can do in your local communities. Cradle Cincinnati worked with the Housing Authority to put pregnant women on the high priority voucher list for housing. So change happens local. And I just leave you with this final message that you can advocate. You can spark change. Thank you.
Now it's time to get to work. So let's talk about our advocacy goals. We have 3 specific goals or asks for our legislators this afternoon. Make work pay for working families with young children by increasing access to affordable, quality childcare and implementing a refundable child tax credit for working parents. Improve health outcomes for moms and babies by increasing access to evidence-based home visiting programs and community impact models like Cradle Cincinnati. And third, support quality early learning experiences that prepare children for kindergarten by investing in early childhood professionals and strengthening early development and literacy support, including early intervention. These 3 asks are demonstrated and described through 4 fact sheets that are in your folders that you found at your tables when you arrived this morning. A lead person has been assigned to every legislator meeting, and that lead person has a folder for the legislator that contains these fact sheets. We also have a fact sheet for every county in Ohio. That's right, all 88 of them, that contain critical information about the number of babies born, the number of children living in poverty, and more. These documents tell the story about the state of young children in your particular county. The lead person for your meeting will have these in the legislators folder as well. You can find copies for yourself on your tables. Between what's on the tables and in your folder, this is your toolkit. We'll go through each item quickly. Your personalized agenda. This contains details about your legislative meetings. Please, please, please be early for your meetings. The meeting will start without you if you are late. If you happen to have a gap between the morning sessions and your afternoon meetings, you are welcome to attend public committee hearings or remain in the atrium. Your policy agenda, we've been through this a number of times, but this summarizes all of our asks for your meetings this afternoon. Our issue fact sheets breaks down each issue in detail. The county fact sheets shows the state of young children in every Ohio county. And of course, we have a State House map to help you move around the building. If you have any trouble, talk to anyone wearing a Groundwork Ohio badge. Here's the fun part, the social media. Policymakers, their X and their Twitter handles. Please get active on these platforms today. Tag every policymaker you meet with today, even if the meeting is with their staff. Use the QR code that is on your table to find sample posts to get started. And of course, there's 2 thank you cards enclosed. Please use these to send a note of thanks to the person you meet with today. It truly does go a long way in building rapport and relationships. Today's event program also contains a QR code where you can find most of these materials online. If you are meeting in a conference room, please check in with the office who is hosting you, and they will escort you. Please note that you might have a different role for a House meeting versus a Senate meeting listed on your name tag, as there are more House legislative districts than Senate. If you are a leader for multiple meetings, we may have them listed by district number on your name tag. If you need help, please look for anyone wearing a Groundwork Ohio badge. Groundwork team, please join me on the stage.
All right, thank you, Vanessa. This is our Groundwork team if you haven't already met them for today. So you started off the day networking with each other. You contributed to advocacy by sending a letter through electronically, an email, an electronic letter, how about that? How old am I? To your House member this morning. You're going to go to your meetings this afternoon. You're going to work with your leader and the other members of your group to share the resources we've provided, but also share your story, your experience, what is speaking to you within the policy agenda that we've shared. Now, you know our agenda includes a watch party of the State of the State, so in a few minutes here, we're going to grab our lunch. We're going to then sit back down and watch the State of the State. We did not plan our advocacy day around Governor DeWine's State of the State address. However, I don't think it was an accident that we all happen to be here today during the State of the State address. Governor DeWine's proposal, even though as advocates we're hungry for more and more over time, is the strongest proposal we have seen in recent years and maybe across the decade in terms of investments in young children and families. And as Groundwork, certainly through our staff and all of you have all blooming advocacy tool belt with all of the tools. The threats and the needs of families are growing. Their needs are growing and the threats to our systems are at an all-time high. You're going to have some difficult conversations this afternoon. But one of the things that we're also going to do to engage in advocacy that we heard about a little this morning from the legislative panel and your legislative leaders is celebrate and say thank you. And part of that is to hold the legislators and the governor accountable to this incredible executive proposal. So we're gonna have a little fun now, but on your tables are signs. And if you're wondering if you signed up for a rally, you didn't sign up for a rally, you're in the right place. They have our policy priorities on the back. There's a mixture of policy priorities, so grab the one that speaks to you. And we're gonna do a little exercise with them. But first I wanna tell you that after we kind of do our exercise with them, you're going to get up, you're going to go grab your box lunch, and then come back to your table in time for then a live stream of the State of the State that we'll watch. Immediately following the State of the State, Brittany will come up and make any remaining announcements, but I will be over here and our team will be over here and we will be going up into the rotunda, the round part here of the Statehouse. And our goal is to, number one, go out to the rotunda and turn left because all of us are starting our first legislative meetings in the House by and large. So we're going to be going out to the rotunda, turning left to go outside of the building and walking to the Statehouse. Again, we'll have a few members of our team ahead of you to help escort people and make sure you get there. But what you're going to be passing is this critical intersection of the rotunda that when the governor has concluded his State of the State, we're hoping that we can meet him so that he can see that our support, we have 400 folks here today, we're doing 100 legislative meetings, and that we're going to ensure that kids and families are prioritized in this budget, both so the governor knows and so that all the members of the General Assembly know we are here today. So, appropriate behavior, certainly, because we're not at a rally, is some hooting and hollering, I think. Some thank you, Governor. There'll be other folks, there'll certainly be other folks in the area. We want to be respectful. We also want to show our support. So first of all, I'm going to ask everyone to stand and do a stretch because you're going to get up and do lunch anyway. So I want to see everyone up with their sign. All right. So you're all following, I know you're early childhood people because you're following this assignment so very well. And introverts, you grab an extroverted friend before you make your way out when we eventually go back out to the rotunda following our event. And then flip your sign because we've got other messages. All right, very good. Stretching.
Their bodies.
Their bodies. Turn your bodies. Oh, all right, turn your bodies.
To face the way
Yeah.
we're facing.
So you guys turn around, face this direction. We're gonna get some B-roll because what you don't know is there's lots of people in the room today, but we're making sure that every policymaker knows there's 400 people here today via paid digital ads. So if members happen to be scrolling or looking at their social media this afternoon and the days to come, they will also know you're here. All right, very good. So we've got all of our bases covered. All right, give your arms a quick break. And then we're gonna practice one. Did I do what we're supposed to do? Yes. We've got all the media? Okay. We're gonna practice one celebratory chant. And we're gonna say, let's invest in kids. So put your hands back up. Let's go, ready? Let's invest in kids. Let's invest in kids. Let's invest in kids. Let's invest in kids. All right, very good. We did. All right, so we've done our homework, we've practiced, we've stretched. I will now ask you to please head to where breakfast was to grab a boxed lunch and move on. I'll just remind folks, please avail yourself of all the choices, but if you have dietary restrictions, we've accommodated you, and I want to make sure those meals get to you. So please, for the rest of the crowd who doesn't have those restrictions, make your choices now and come back and get seated, and then we'll start the watch. Thank you.